Last time I built a mineshaft elevator that goes all the way to the bottom of the world. A mineshaft that weaves and winds around the inside of the mountain, a mine train that runs down that mineshaft, as well as a lava farm. And none of that is finished, so I've got a whole bunch of work to do today, finishing that off, as well as building systems to produce a whole bunch of resources, including metals and various stone varieties like iron and gold and andesite and diorite and granite and oh jeez, I've got so much to do. And I think the best place to start is CobbleStone. That's because everything we're going to be producing is going to require cobblestone, so I'm going to need it in big old quantities, which means I'm going to need somewhere relatively large to put this thing. And in order to squeeze some form of realism into this crazy Minecraft thing, I'm thinking this entire system should work in layers. So we would have the cobblestone relatively high up, the mine train will then bring that cobblestone down to a processing area which does other types of stones. It would go down a bit further and then start processing some of the metals. My thinking there being the further you go down in the world, the more precious the resources that you pull out, which I don't know if that's realistic, but that's what we're going for. So I think a cobblestone generator might fit nicely in somewhere like this, which is not too far away from our wood room. However, it is far away from my beacon. Now, of course, this is Create, so there's a whole bunch of different ways to produce cobblestone. We could use a stone or cobble generator with mechanical drills in order to create cobble that way. We could generate tanks of lava and tanks of water and mix them together to create cobblestone that way, and that is the least laggy way to do it because it's not breaking blocks. However, it does require having a whole bunch of lava, although it does run through your lava supplies pretty quickly. Or we could use the way I used in my last series, which does it a whole bunch faster, but it is pretty tricky to build. And I'm of course talking about this cobblestone generator, which is absolutely ridiculous. It is basically just a wall of mechanical drills attached to a little minecart contraption, so it doesn't require any power at all. And looking into it, we've basically just got flowing water down the front and lava sources down the back, and it works very, very well, producing more cobblestone than I have ever been able to use. And just in order to show you this working, I've had to just eject all of the cobblestone into fire underneath because it just produces way too much. So one of these. And in order to create one of these, I'm going to need a whole bunch of space, which means I'm going to have to dig out a big old area, and that's going to be slow because I'm nowhere near my beacon. But again, this is Create. And that means I should just be able to glue my beacon together, turn it into a contraption, and then just move it anywhere I want. Yes, I can do that. However, the problem is I'm quite lazy. So actually, we're going to leave this beacon here and just get a couple more. And I think a good place to fight the wither is right near this track, exactly where I need to dig this area out. So let's just dig a little bit more of a hole over here. You can't do that, it'll blow up your base. No, it won't. The wither makes rubbish, like the easiest enemy in the world. Let's just put a few blocks around, build a little pesky wither in here, and here we go. It's wither killing time. Off you go, you can pop now, sir. Here we go, and I just have to stand here and give him the old chop a few times. Now, there's one wither down. Just have a quick golden apple because I'm not feeding myself apparently. And just so you can see this one a bit better, I'll increase my brightness so that we can do it again. And there we go. Oh, I'm going to die. He got me! I got a score of -2. How did I get -2? But anyway, now I've got my stuff back, I've managed to get 2 nether stars and dig out a whole bunch more of this area without actually having to dig out any more of this area. So that's worked out kind of well. So now that I've got a new beacon, I can actually use the mini HUD mod to check the range of my previous beacon and then just make sure that this one overlaps a little bit and we've got it probably more over in this corner. And that should help me reach all of the areas down in that mine. Well, according to the mini-map, this biome that I'm in is deep dark, and I did just set off a shrieker, which is slightly concerning. So, yeah, we might end up with a warden. I mean, the wither's one thing, but you can't block the warden. You just have to run away. So why don't we just dig up this way a little bit, get ourselves into this deep dark hole, grab myself a hoe, and do a bit of the old sneak. And get rid of that. There we go. Shouldn't be a problem now. And there we go, I've now got beacon power exactly where I need it, so I can get on with making this a big old room, and then we can get towards building a big old cobblestone generator. And here we have a big old room ready for a cobblestone generator, but it's not a particularly tall room like the one I showed you on my previous world, so we're going to have a relatively short cobblestone generator. This sort of size, 8x4, that gives us 32, that's exactly half a stack of cobble every time this activates, which is once every about a second and a half, so that should be more than enough cobble for us coming through for now. So now I've just got to actually build the cobblestone generator. And the first thing to do is turn this into a contraption, so of course that's going to mean gluing it all together. We'll stick a barrel on for the storage, we're going to need an interface to get the items out of it, and that should just about be everything we need for this, I think. It's been a while. You just saw one in your other world. Yeah, but I can't remember it. I've bad memory, mate. So let's just pop that up for now. Let's get that out of the way. And now I need to build the framework for the actual farm itself. So our lava's going to go against this back wall here. We need a gap in the middle, and then our water will go down the front here, which does mean we need a little bit of a channel at the bottom for the water to run into so that it doesn't just splash straight into our lava sources. So let's just dig a little bit of a hole in the ground down at this point here, and we'll put that bottom row in there, and then the water should just fall into this. Have I done... Oh, I haven't... No, I've done that all wrong. The water's going on this side. This is where the channel's going to go for the water. The water should fall down into that gap there, and the cobblestone should get generated above these blocks here. Now, one thing we do need is a temporary divider here so that our lava doesn't end up spilling into the wrong place before we're ready. And of course, our lava's only going to be 4 tall, so we can put a row of blocks down here for our lava to sit on. Now I just need to fill that full of lava. And that should be relatively simple because my lava farm has 160 buckets worth stored here, and the actual cauldrons are all full as well. So if I put 32 empty buckets in there, we should end up with 32 buckets worth of lava in here. Won't fit, there's only 27 slots. Yeah, but I'll take them out, mate. And filling this in with lava is going to be relatively tricky, although thanks to my jetpack I can hover, and I just got to make sure that I don't miss any gaps at all. And that's the last row of lava in, I think. I think that's all we need. Now on this side, all I'm going to need to do is throw in my buckets of water, and we should be able to just use 2 buckets and make water sources, although it doesn't like doing that unless it's got a block below it to place it on. There we go, that's all of the water in, so let's get rid of those temporary blocks down there. So at this point now, if I was to get rid of one of those pieces of dirt, it should turn into cobble. And there we go, that's cobble, so it works. Let's just hope that I didn't turn the lava behind it into obsidian. I didn't. Good, excellent. In that case, we can get our contraption in there, which means getting rid of this layer of blocks here. And that should be a cobblestone generator just about done. So popping down our contraption, that should fit the hole, it does. And it's going to need to go a couple of blocks further forward than that, because those drills need to hit where that dirt is. But we'll see how we get on bouncing it backwards and forwards at that point there. Let's just put one of those in for a second, and let's just activate that track and see what happens. It did it. It's doing it. We've got a cobblestone generator. Look at it go. And that should be everything we need in terms of generating cobble. We just need to get the items out of here now and ready for our train to pick up. And I want this to look relatively industrial, so what we're going to have to do is have a belt probably coming across to around about here. That can then get fed into a simple storage box via that funnel there. This simple storage box is going to require a whole bunch of upgrades so it can hold plenty, and it's also going to need a threshold switch on it as well. So let's just stick that on there. Let's put a redstone link on the back of it. And we're going to pop another redstone link down here. We'll invert that, call that cobble and drill. This one can be cobble and drill as well, and then we need to invert this signal so that it activates that when this storage box is pretty much empty. So now, all I've got to do is get the items out of there onto that belt and then power this belt to fill that up. And then we're going to need a system to get those items out onto our little mine train. Now, in terms of power, I could link this up to our main power system, but realistically, the only thing needing power in here is this belt. So it seems a bit of a waste of materials to have shafts and gearboxes running all the way from over there just to here when we could just stick in a little water wheel and have this power in itself. So I guess maybe we'll just dig that into the wall here and make it a little bit of a feature. So let's stick the water wheel on there, and then we can almost like pretend that the water is naturally coming down through here by just sticking a bucket in there. Oh dear. I think that kind of works. We just need to get that power out of there now and into here. I guess we could just dig down into the floor at this point, go underneath and go round. Now, if I link this up now, that's going to be going pretty slow and also the wrong way round. So I think we probably do want a little bit of speed control in here. And I think that makes sense to probably throw that in around about at this point here, and then that'll face in the right direction. That looks more reasonable. That's on 96. So now if I invert that threshold switch again, we should get the items coming out of there. There they go, across there and into the storage box. That's fantastic. But I don't want that storage box on show. What I actually want is a little mound of cobblestone completely surrounding this thing, which I will decorate properly in a moment so that we can't see any of that stuff at all. And then it just looks like the belt's kind of just piling up the cobble at this point here, and then we'll have an interface coming out of that to go into the train. And in order to know how we're going to connect to the train, we're going to need the train here so that we can actually figure out where the connections are. But the train doesn't have any connections yet or any storage on it, so I need to do that first. So bringing the train back to the station, let's just disassemble it, and then I guess each one of these is probably going to need an item vault in it that we'll have to disguise. And I think underneath those item vaults it would make sense to have a storage interface on each side facing in opposite directions so that we can connect to this thing on either side of the carriage, and we'll do the same for the back one as well. So using a few copycat boards and slopes and layers and things, I don't think that looks too bad. We've got one with cobble in it and one with coal in it. These edges look a little bit weird, but there really isn't a great deal I can do about that, because of course these copycat slopes, whilst they can be changed height, they don't have corners, which makes life a little bit tricky. So now we've got a little bit more extra gluing to do to get all of that together. I guess the same thing on this one here, and hopefully that should all work. Let's take it for a drive. And yep, we've left nothing behind. Good. And now all we've got to do is park up next to our new cobblestone farm and figure out whereabouts we're going to connect to. Because one of the issues with this is of course it's not going to be straight on. Although I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. So if I put one of those there, will it connect? What if I put it there? That connects. So there's my little pile of cobble. Obviously it's got andesite in it too, and that's just because it looked absolutely horrible, all just cobblestone. And I think it looks okay considering the room we had. It is a bit flat there, but I guess it would kind of make sense if that mine train was coming past and scraping past it all of the time. And obviously on this side we've got it blending out a little bit more, and I do want access to this threshold switch and that. I've also left a little gap here so they can see how much cobble we've got, and of course our little interface is just behind that copycat board. But where's the train going to take it? I guess that's the thing we've got to figure out next. The main thing I need to be producing right now is andesite. And the reason for that is because I pretty much completely run out of it. Of course, we've been using a whole bunch of it for decorating these areas, and of course use a whole bunch of it for actually making create things. And I've only got 486 pieces left. So that is priority number one. To make andesite, you can mix diorite and cobble, or you can use gravel and flint and lava. But as we've already discussed, unless you've got an infinite source of lava's expensive. Whereas diorite, on the other hand, is just quartz and cobblestone. And you might think quartz is expensive, but it's not. Quartz you get quite a lot of for just washing soul sand. And soul sand is just haunted sand. And sand is just crushed gravel. And gravel is just crushed cobblestone. So it always leads back to cobblestone. But to have all of those things in place, gravel, sand, quartz, diorite, that's going to require an awful lot of space. Certainly a lot more space than we could have squeezed into this little room, and it's also going to require a lot of power as well. So ideally the next room that we make along our train track should be somewhere relatively close to where there is existing power, and somewhere where we can make an absolutely huge hole without upsetting anything around it. And I think along here, if we get to around about this flat point here and use a bit of cheesy free cam, we're really not too far away from the power station just down here, and we've got a big old area underneath where everything else was that we can smash to bits. Apparently I've made an even smaller one than we had before, so I'm not sure this room is going to be big enough for everything I want to do in it, but I'm sure we can squeeze a few things in. Even if that's just bringing in the cobble, turning that into gravel, turning that into sand, and then maybe even haunting that into the soul sand. And we could probably get away with turning that into quartz and gold as well, but I feel like that should happen further down in the mine. So I don't know if we'll actually get any diorite or andesite produced in this room, but that depends on what scale we're going to be producing these things at. Don't forget that this is a single player world, just for me, so there's no need to have absolutely giant farms producing hundreds of thousands of items at once. For instance, this cobblestone generator's already generated nearly 18,000 cobblestone, and considering I've already got a big old box full of cobble up here as well, with 23,000 cobblestone in it, I think that's probably a big enough scale for us to be getting on with. Okay, I've spent a couple of minutes just sorting a few bits out. First of all, I've put in stations for our train so that I know exactly where it's going to park in order to link up with our output and our input interfaces. So the cobble's going to be coming in here, and I guess the soul sand is going to be going out there. I also crafted up a bunch of crushing wheels, as well as a bunch of fans, and I've brought power down from upstairs so that we've got access to it from a speed controller here. So what am I waiting for? Let's make a factory thing. Maybe. I suppose the first thing we should do is unload the cobblestone. And I think with these I want to route the power through the floor so we're not having lines all over this room. So what I'm going to do is just dig a couple of blocks down under here, clear out a bit of space underneath so that we've got access to everything. And now all my gravel's going to fall down, of course it is. Maybe I should fill these holes in with something other than gravel. No one would ever know. Okay, let's get some chain drive in there and a little more just in there. And then we can connect these things under there like that. But my belt's going the wrong way, so let's just switch this around. Stick it on maybe, I guess, 64 for now, and that's... What? Oh, of course, I need to come off that, not that. Moron. Okay, we've got power to the belt now, this is good. And I guess it would make sense for this to offload into some temporary storage, just so that the train doesn't have to sit here for ages until all of the cobble's been processed before it can move on to the next area. So let's stick an andesite funnel there, and a brass one on there, and now that should start unloading. Here we go. Now, I didn't really want to use item vaults down here, mainly because I don't really think they fit in with the theme, and they do take up an awful lot of room. So the alternative would be for me to use these storage boxes, but these are crazy expensive, and I've no andesite left to make more. So I guess I'm going to have to be very sparing with these, but at least this should be able to hold everything that's in the train. And we do need to filter this for cobble, just in case this train decides it's going to bring something else in, and it doesn't fit it all in, which means I need some capacity cards, and I don't have any left, and I haven't got enough resources to make any more, so I'm hoping I can steal one from this thing. I can. Oh, I can steal a couple. And I think we should only need one, and that should be able to get everything else off here. Yep. That's fully unloaded. Good. So now what we can do is extend this belt along here a little bit, and I guess at this point here we'll throw in one of those and then another one, maybe where it is. And we just need some vertical gearboxes either side of that, and some more either side of that one there. We need another little bit of shaft in there to keep that moving, and then we can throw on some crushing wheels there and another set at that point there, and that should crush all of the stone down into gravel and all of the gravel down into sand. Although we've got a bit of spare space here, so I might just bring this back a bit. There we go, that looks better. So it would make sense to have another storage box at this point here to catch all the sand. So let's just stick an andesite funnel on there and a brass funnel on there, but hopefully we should end up seeing sand coming through into here in a second. However, this would make sense if we had a whole bunch more speed going on here, but what I've got to be a little bit careful of is completely using all of the speed from our power station. Although we do have a reasonable amount of stress left, but we are going to be building an awful lot of machines in this area. And of course, immediately we've got a problem, and that is that these storage boxes can only hold one type of item, and of course we're getting clay coming through here as well. We're probably going to need some sort of storage system in here that's controlled, and that way we can link things up underneath with some storage trim, just stick on an interface in there instead, and that will be able to pick up everything, and then it'll all be able to go into here. So we're getting gravel and flint as well. So we're just going to end up voiding this stuff off with a little void upgrade like that. And I'm going to put one on clay as well for now, because we don't need that right now. So now all we need to do is haunt this sand into soul sand. So for this, I think I'm just going to set it up over here, and we're just going to have 4 encased fans like that. Each one of those is going to have a campfire in front of it, and then we'll just have a belt running down in front of this thing like this, with another storage interface on there and another one on there. Underneath of all this, we just need to link those storage things together with our existing storage thing, and then we're going to need one more box over here for soul sand. Oh dear. Yeah, need to stick that capacity card in there, because you need to be soul sand. And now that I've connected everything together with some chain drive, put a couple of brass funnels on, filtered for the right items, you can see it is now haunting our sand into soul sand, which is now going in there. And now it's just a little bit of a spaghetti mess underneath here with all of the power and stuff, but it's not too bad. But I do need something in the way of that to stop me getting burnt on those particles. And for that, I'm just going to use some copycat panels with some framed glass in, and that should stop those particles coming through, which means it's safe to walk past. So now that's everything in here that we need. All we've got to do is get the soul sand out back onto the train. And I don't like this storage system being here facing the wrong way. That's just weird. So I'm going to move everything about. Be with you in a second. Well, more time than I'd care to admit later, and this entire room has moved around. We've now got a big old pile of soul sand here that is feeding into the train, and we've got a big old pile of cobblestone here which is feeding out from the train. The idea here that this is dropping off a big old pile of cobblestone, it's feeding those out into these crushing wheels, they're getting turned into gravel, then sand. This is picking up the excess of the rubbish it doesn't need. The sand's going through here, getting haunted into soul sand, and then getting passed back to the train. Or dumped on this pile, and then the train's picking it up, I guess. And it's all working pretty well. It's messy now because of these piles of stuff, but it's very difficult to make small piles of stuff when you're trying to hide quite big stuff underneath them. But I kind of like it. I think it looks relatively reused, relatively natural for Minecrafty create stuff, and I would consider this room done. So we're now producing cobblestone and now soul sand. So it's time to move on to our next destination and find a room that we can turn that soul sand into gold and andesite and all of those good things, and I think maybe somewhere around here. This might do nicely. Bit of sneaky free cam. Yep, that's basically the opposite side of this room, far enough away to not cause a problem. So I guess it's digging time again, but my beacon's out of range again. Only just, it's there. There's one beacon, and here's the other one. So I'm actually in 2 beacons range at this point here, but just not quite where I need to be. Oh, but as luck would have it, there's just a big hole here anyway, so I don't have to do too much digging before I get in range of my beacon again. Oh, that's convenient. So here we go, a bigger room this time, and this time I decided to really cut the corner on this track so we can see it from the whole way round, and that should give us a little bit more room internally to play with as well. As you can see, we've got a storage interface here, which I was thinking of having the input come into this point and a big old pile of soul soil here, so it's not taking up all of this room in here, and then we'd only need a pile of the andesite there to be picked up on the way out. That said, I kind of like the fact that both of these line up at the same time and it can pick up as it drops off, so we'll see about that. So in terms of the plan, we're going to get our soul soil, we're going to wash that down into quartz and gold, we're going to take some of the quartz and some cobblestone and turn that into diorite, and then we're going to take some more of this cobble and the diorite and turn that into andesite. But we've got a little bit of a problem here, and that is that we're not actually bringing any cobblestone down here at all, and we're going to need a reasonable amount of it. But currently the way this system's set up is to drop off all of the cobblestone here and have it all turned into soul sand, and that's probably not the best idea. So we're going to have a system in place to prevent it from dropping off absolutely everything, so by the time it gets down to the next room, it's actually got some left to drop off here. And I'll worry about that when we actually start sorting out the train's automation and stations and things. But if we are bringing down both cobble and soul sand, then we are going to need 2 points where it offloads. Cobblestone's going to be in this truck here, and the soul sand's actually going to be in this truck here, and we definitely need to offload all of that because we don't want that going anywhere else. So reversing the train up a little bit, what we could could probably do then is actually drop the soul sand off at this point down here from that truck there, and then when we get round to here, we can drop off the rest of the cobble. So we'll have soul sand in there, cobble in there. That gives us this area here to wash the soul sand, and then we can process that into the diorite and the andesite around here. That makes sense. That means I need another station, and I think this station needs to go roughly around about there. Let's just drop that down there for a second and see if that works. If I hop in the train, roll back a bit and then hold space, that should park there, and hopefully when that's parked there, yes, that connects. Good. Now, of course, we're also going to need power down here, and at the moment, the closest power we've got is a reasonable distance away, all the way up here. And I'm just wondering how far it is away, he says, going into Duty Free Cam, to actually send that. Oh, look, it's there. That's not far away at all. Well, good, that's nice and easy then. In that case, we will make a little sneaky hole down here, dig a little bit of an access point down here, hopefully straight into that room we've just made. Yep, there we are. And if we come in, I guess, around about this point here, then all we need is a little bit of shaft, a vertical gearbox, bit more shaft, another vertical gearbox to block off the floor, because then we can put in a speed controller. If I pop one of those on there and one of those there, we've got access to the side of the speed controller, and then we can just send the power down there, or we can dig under the floor again like we did in the other room and disguise it all, which is exactly what I think I'm going to do. And skipping forward a little bit, we now have a washing machine in place for our soul sand, and I don't think I'm going to have enough room here to do a big old mound of soul sand like we had at the other place, so I'll have to decorate this some other way. But we've got the soul sand coming off here, going into a box just as a buffer, getting let through here. We've got some leaves with some water inside, just because the water won't leave the leaves. If that makes sense. If I get rid of that, basically the water doesn't fall out. We've got a set of fans above, we've got a set of fans behind, so it's getting 2 times the amount of washing that we would normally get from just 2 fans, and then that comes through into this funnel, which has got a filter on it, which is only allowing quartz and gold nuggets through. So if I hook that up to our speed controller, this should start going through, and hopefully things should start getting washed. Although it's very difficult to see. There we go. We've got a whole bunch of nether quartz there now, and a little bit of gold. So we've just made our very first gold farm and nether quartz farm, I guess. And that's nice and easy. It squeezes into there nice. It doesn't take too much space up, but we're going to need a bigger capacity on here to take all of the soul sand out of there. So for now, let's stick a capacity upgrade in there. We're going to need one in there as well. Let's put one on the gold too, and I think I'd also like a void upgrade on the gold, just in case that starts to overflow. Although we will be picking that up somehow or other later on. Maybe when our train comes past the other way, it can pick the gold up and take it up to the surface, and then we can add that to our stockpile that we'll be getting later on. So now all I need to do is then bring the cobble in from here, combine that with the quartz, turn it into diorite, combine it with even more cobble, turn it into andesite, and just send it back out here, and we've got all of this room to do that in. Really shouldn't be a problem. So we're going to need a funnel on there with the cobblestone filter. We're going to need a funnel on there, and we're going to need a funnel on there. We need a basin, a whisk, which turns into a mixer, and after a couple of minutes of twiddling, I think this is pretty much all we need. So what's going on here is we've got a tunnel which is going to force split the cobblestone between this belt going into make diorite and this belt going into make andesite. Tidy it up all a little bit, and now all we need is power to all of this, which really shouldn't be too much of a problem. So now all of those are going in the right direction. It should be pretty simple to get these ones going in the right direction. All I'm going to need is a gearbox either on this side, which is wrong, or this side, which is also wrong. Why? Okay, so all of those belts are now going in the right direction. That one's going in the right direction, so we just need power to these mixers. But is it going to actually mix and create anything? Doesn't appear to be doing anything at all. Now it's going nice and fast. Why are you not making diorite? Oh. Well, I'm an idiot. Diorite doesn't have a mixing recipe. You've got to craft it. It's andesite that you can mix. Oh, jeez. I thought this was too easy. In that case, all of this was a total waste of time. Okay, so here's my new plan. What we've got going on here is our little storage system there. We've got our cobble coming in here, and behind me we've got our andesite going out there. This little setup with the mechanical arm is going to take cobblestone out of this interface and put it in that basin, and the diorite is going to be coming in that basin from this mechanical crafter here, which is hopefully going to eject the items out onto this belt. In order to feed the right items, i.e. the quartz and the cobblestone, into this mechanical crafter, we have another arm back here with some more storage interfaces there with all of the funnel set up. up so that this thing should put the right items in the right slots from the right places. And I've connected almost everything up to power except for a couple of things. I need to add a chain drive onto there to power that belt, which is in turn going to power everything else. And I also need to put a cog there to power that as well, that being the mechanical crafters. So let's just add in the chain drive. Everything should start going. This should start getting the materials. There we go, the cobble. Is it going to go onto the belt? It is. That's going to go into there, and this should produce us some andesite. And there we go. It's already come through. It's working. And that andesite will just continue to back up into this box until the train can take it away. But of course, we're going to need a funnel on there to get that into this storage interface. Easy. And it's left us with quite a lot of space. So I suppose I've got plenty of room for piles of cobblestone and andesite to cover up some of these things, but before I do that, I'm going to need a whole bunch of this andesite, and I also need to get some more cobble down here, because we haven't got very much. And what you might notice about this setup is it's not particularly quick. Now, we can probably adjust that a little bit by adding some more speed on here, which should make the mechanical arms and crafter substantially quicker, but it's still going to be a relatively slow process, and we're not storing any of the diorite at all. But I don't need diorite. I just need andesite. Now, in terms of it not being particularly quick, it really doesn't matter, because this is always just going to be going in the background doing all the things we need it to do, and I'll be occasionally just collecting all of this andesite, probably from wherever the train drops it off at some point in the future when I've got that going somewhere. And speaking of some point in the future, it seems this little project that I've got that was supposed to take 1 episode has now taken 2, and is probably going to take a couple more before we've managed to get ourselves all the way down to the bottom of our mine and processed everything else. Because don't forget, I want iron farms, I want more gold, and I want more things coming from this thing, and I want the entire thing linking up, ow jeez, down to the bottom of this, all the way around here, and all the way over to our station where the elevator is going to be. And this is just the top floor. I've got plans for all sorts of things going further down as well. So it could take a little bit of a while to complete this project, especially decorating all of the walls and things like that. But luckily for me, I've now got 2 weeks holiday to go away for. In fact, by the time this video comes out, I'll actually be back. But in that time while I'm away, hopefully I'll get a whole bunch of stuff done on camera, and hopefully a whole bunch of that's going to be decorating these walls. So I guess we'll both find out in the next episode. But before I go, I think it would be a good idea to at least get this train automated in terms of picking up and dropping off the cobblestone and the andesite and the soul sand. And in order to automate it, it means it really needs somewhere to be able to get to the bottom of and turn around. That said, it does have reverse control, so it can reverse, but I think it would be better if it did a loop. So for now, let's just get it to do a very temporary little loop down at the bottom here so that it can get all the way round. And we might as well take a ride up to the top in the elevator, and then we can throw up a temporary loop up here as well. We'll go round the elevator shaft again, why not? And then we're going to need a train schedule, which is sturdy sheet and paper, and we get 4 of them. And for this schedule, I need to add in the stations, which I haven't actually labelled any of, so I should probably do that next. Soul sand drop off, soul sand collect, cobble collect. So, of course, we need to start at the cobble collection, and we want that to pick up exactly 32 stacks of cobblestone. Then it's going to go to the soul sand collect, and we want that to have 32 stacks of soul sand. However, we do want to limit how much cobble it can drop off, and I don't know if I can do that with this. So instead, we can say it can move on once it's got exactly 16 stacks of cobble, and then it should still have 16 left in it, and then we can get rid of this soul sand one, and then we want it to go to the soul sand drop off, and we want it to have exactly no soul sand left in it at that point. And then we want it to pick up the andesite, which is where it's going to be dropping off the rest of the cobblestone. And at that point, it's also going to be picking up some andesite as well. And there really isn't anything to do with that at the moment, so I think we're just going to let that back up in here for now, which means I should probably put some capacity upgrades in this so it can hold a bit more, and then go and find myself a driver. And that means I get the fun of driving this train all the way around the track, all the way back to the top again. Woohoo! Ow, ow, ow. Okay, I'm going to have to fix the roof. Okay, that's fine. Ow, I'm going to have to fix the roof there as well. That's fine. And here we are. We have arrived at the surface, where our drivers are waiters. They're waiters? No, they're not waiters. Well, one of them's a barman, but no, they are waiters. Hey, chaps. Which one of you wants to be a train driver? Don't all shout out at once. Any of you will do. You're being a train driver.
Hello,
don't want to be a train driver. I'll bang me head. I'm going to fix that. Don't worry about it. It's fine. What are you doing down there, you moron? I'm hiding. Get out of here. Get on that train. There we go. Good job, sir. Now, I'm not going to give you the schedule yet, because then you will bang your head, so I'll be back in a minute. In a minute? In a minute, idiot. That's what I meant to say. Okay, the first head banging block is that one, I believe, so let's get rid of that. I don't think any of these are a problem, so they should be okay. And then the next head banging blocks are literally all of these ones, so I just need to take another layer out of this and we should be absolutely fine. And there we go, that's all nicely cleared out, so it's time to have another ride in the elevator. And go and give that idiot a job. Right, it's ready for you. I don't want to drive a train, I'm not very good at it. You'll be what? Look. You guys asked me to build you a mining town so that you could have jobs and run the mine. No, you told us to say... And I said you shouldn't talk. Remember? Good. Right. Wear your hat and go for a ride. You know, you're going... Oh, my gee. You're never going to connect to all of the things if you... Oh, jeez. Why are you going backwards, you moron? You're... Oh, well, I guess he was right. He's not very good at doing his job. You're facing the wrong way. Yeah, you're not going to fill up anything there, sir, and you're going to wait until it's full. Let's try that again, shall we? This time, face the right way round and go the correct... Really? Right, fine. Okay. I get it. I get it. You really don't want to do it, do you? You'll have to do it instead. I don't want to do it either. You're going to do a better job than they did, or else. Okay? Okay, in order to fix this problem, we're going to need to put down a station at this point here, drive the train to the station, disassemble the train, take away the reverse controls, reassemble the train. Get in there, you. Go on, that's it. Now, go forwards. That's better. Right, is he actually going to make it this time? Let's beat him there by going the shortcut way and hopefully not get run over as he comes to get the cobblestone. Here he comes, very speedily. Stopping just at the right point. Look at that. Now we're filling up with cobblestone. This is wonderful. Good job, sir. 32 stacks with, which is 2,048, and then he should set off again with a bit of luck. Yep, he's got more than that. That's good. So then he should go to the next stop, drop half of that off, and it should start processing into soul sand. Here we go. Yep, it's going out. It's getting processed. And then he should go when he's got around about half of that left. So there we go. Yeah, perfect. Good job, sir. Now he's going to come down here, drop off any soul sand that he's got. There it goes into the machine. That's wonderful. You're doing a good job there, sir. There is andesite in it because I have already let this go around once just to make sure it worked. And now he should drop off the rest of the cobblestone here. Here it goes into the machine and he should start picking up andesite, which he is. It's all working rather well. And that means next time we can move further down the mine, produce even more stuff, and even get the bit at the top sorted out. Maybe. There's an awful lot to do.